Hello, welcome to the Health In Show, an affiliate program of Homeopathy World Community. You've come to the right place to tune in and participate with your comments and questions. Love is the greatest healer of all, but sometimes, in order to change our emotions, we must take action in other spheres of our lives. We speak with experts in alternative and complementary health fields and hope you will benefit in some small or great way. Remember, you are wherever your thoughts are. Make sure your thoughts are where you want to be.
Good day, everyone. I know you've been anxiously waiting for us to begin, and we are live with the Smiling Maria Bowl and our very happy producer, Amnon Nissan, who's looking up with his eyes every which way because we are getting started learning about clinical practice professionalism in the field of homeopathy with Maria Bowl, CCH, RS Home, ACACN, DHM, and DCN. All of those scrambled together, and I'm sure it's going to say fabulous. Maria's been director of the British Institute of Homeopathy, the United States of America office since 2001. She began her career with the Institute as a tutor in 1995 and enjoys training tomorrow's alternative medical practitioners. And we're going to have to change that. They're really not alternative. They're authentic, mainstream. This is the way to go. Homeopathy, energy medicine, and everything else came first. We're first. Prior to joining the Institute staff, Maria was in private practice as a professional homeopath where she helped adults and children deal with and overcome issues such as PTSD, emotional trauma, autoimmune disorders, and nutritional imbalances. And I always have a lot to say about diet today and what's in our food or what is plastic that we are eating. Autoimmune disorders, and she also, her areas of expertise include herbology, because she studied with Dr. Schultes at Harvard, and clinical nutrition, in addition to classical homeopathy. So she did get her degree from Harvard University, Westbrook University, and an EMT, emergency care and trauma. Homeopathic training and studies from the British Institute of Homeopathy, the famous David Little, Massimo, and pronounce that for me, Mangilavori, and Dr. A.U. Ramakrishnan, Elise Timmerman, Frederick Schroyens, homotoxicology. And in the late 80s, Maria she had to go through her own ordeal of Lyme disease. But look at her now. We're going to get started with Maria. Yay! Okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, actually, it was Lyme disease that brought me to homeopathy.
Uh-huh.
I was dying. I always said if the doctor had told me I had AIDS and I was dying, I might have gone home, killed my husband, but I would have believed him.
You would have killed your husband if you were sick?
Well, no, I said if they had told me I had AIDS and I was dying, I said I would have probably gone home, killed my husband.
Oh, I see. I get the connection now.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was Lyme. It was an autoimmune, a bad one. And I went to a homeopath who saved my life. Well, I was so impressed. It was just one pill. For me, it was CalCarb 200C, and the Lyme was gone. And I was, what on earth is this stuff? I've never seen anything heal like this. And that's put my foot on the path to being a homeopath. And I can tell you, I've loved it ever since.
So let me ask you this question. One dose is all you needed?
Okay, yes, let me explain that. If you're looking at classical homeopathic medicine, we are looking at the mind-body connection. And so we're looking at a remedy that covers the mental as well as the physical ailments. And yes, one dose of CalCarb 200C, which was not a constitutional for me, but was the medicine I needed at the time. and the Lyme was gone. Now, that doesn't mean the 2 to almost 3 years of debility was gone. And later, when I studied clinical nutrition, is when I realized I could have accelerated that healing by a couple of years with the proper nutrition to repair the damage the autoimmune had done. But it changed my whole life right there. It was almost like the curtains went up, the sun came out. You know, those days like we have out now, all of a sudden you've got a sunny day and it's warm and it's pleasant and it's like wonderful. And that was my first experience with homeopathic medicine.
It's a very positive experience, and one that one drop. And, you know, that one drop, there's also, I posted on Homeopathy World Community, a producer, Laurel Chiton, is creating a movie. Do you know about it? You don't know about it?
Glad to hear about it, though.
Yeah, I sent out a notice, and I'll look it up so that I can refresh everybody's memory a little bit later in the show. But she is an award-winning movie producer, and she has been working, I think it's like at least 4 years, and she's asking for donations just to finish up the last cut, the editing. She's traveled around the world, taken clips of all different homeopaths in every country, and it's going to be a phenomenal movie when it's finally out in the public eye.
Is this the young lady that was in Africa and taking clips from Africa? I think we saw some pieces of it.
Yeah, she's been everywhere.
Yeah, okay.
I'll give you some more information later on, but I think that the movie, she's changed the title a number of times. It's going to be called just like One Drop, and that's why.
Okay. That's what threw me because, yes, the title has been changed several times.
I want to introduce, we have Dr. Sharma, Dr. Deepak Sharma from the Orbitz Clinic in New Delhi. Has he been able to get on with us today?
Hello, Maria.
Hi, yeah. Dr. Sharma. It's my pleasure to be with you.
We're so happy to be together today. And I want to thank also all the folks out there in the chat who are tuning in. If you have questions, you may call at 919-518-9773 or call in via Computers 2K Voice. We have lots of people waiting on the line to answer your questions. Okay, so what do we need to know about a clinical practice? Stories are great.
I think the first thing is Dr. Sharma lives in an area where homeopathy is very much approved of and used by the people. In the United States, we've been under a blanket of suppression for so many years, over 100 years, that went down in the 1920s. The practice in the United States is a little bit different from what I think we're seeing in the clinics. One of the things that impressed me was, I'm sorry, the name escapes me now. He wrote Methods, Aleister Gray. When he moved from England to Australia, he said, oh my gosh, my practice was totally different. I had to change the way I was practicing to live in Australia. And I'd heard the same thing from David Little, who learned homeopathy in the United States. They threatened to sue him, and he said, I'm not doing this. I'm a homeopath, and went to India, where he said he had to start all over again to practice in India. I think this is pretty significant when you're looking at either teaching homeopathic medicine or planning to be a practitioner of homeopathic medicine, that we have to be sensitive to where we are, but at the same time we need to teach homeopathic medicine the way our founder Samuel Hahnemann taught it. I think we need to go from the basics, from the fundamentals and the foundations, a very strong one. There's no shortcuts in homeopathic medicine. If we shortcut, we find ourselves almost on the wrong track. But if you can give someone a good foundation and then refine that foundation depending on where you're practicing, you're doing what really needs to be done today. I have a colleague who worked in Colorado. I don't want to refine this anymore. And she's a good homeopath. And I had studied and worked with her for many years. And there was another homeopath who works in the same town she does.
Oh, what do you want her
And
to
she
do?
said, Maria, 85% of my patients are cannabis indica, which was amazing. If 85% of her patients were cannabis indica, what would that tell you for a student who was studying under her in this area? Are you still there, Debbie?
Yes, I am.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't
Can
sure.
can I make a please move your mic down just an inch?
Okay,
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll see how that goes on our sound. We're just doing a sound check.
okay.
Yeah. I'm concerned about what we have to do to change the way we practice based on where we're living and the acceptability of homeopathy in the region.
Sure.
And the pushback now we have a I don't know that it's so silent anymore. I would say it was a silent war going on in the media about what is allowed. Underground rumblings, threats to pharmaceutical companies, suing different people, raiding offices, having spies go in to a homeopath's office and make up a sickness just
Sure.
to check what is going on with them. And
Well,
go ahead.
they're picking us off on the weakest members also. There was a lawsuit against a woman who does veterinary homeopathy. Her name is Irene de Villers in Washington State. She is disabled, 100% disabled, a wonderful, wonderful animal homeopath, and not someone who could afford a lawsuit. And they sued her. This is the second time. The first time she successfully beat it off. This time it was some kind of administrative, well, you're guilty and we're not even going to hear the case. So they're starting to set precedents. We have to realize we are a major challenge to, quote, evidence-based medicine. Mm-hmm. And probably more so to the pharmaceutical companies, because let's face it, as the Obamacare comes through in the United States, we homeopaths are far more economically friendly than going to see an allopathic doctor as your first shot out of the box.
Not only for primary emergency acute situations, for chronic situations, and
Sure.
for long-term cost. Instead of being obligated to be dependent upon a drug for life to stabilize the lab work, you can take a very inexpensive homeopathic remedy, and along with diet and good care and learning how to create better habits in your life, and
Sure.
and that is going to be such a minimal cost. There's no
Sure.
comparison.
I have a client who comes to me in kidney failure. And he says they told him he would be on dialysis shortly and to put himself on a kidney transplant list. Now, I can't say he's, quote, cured in the cured sense. All of his blood tests are better. He's holding his own. His kidneys are functioning and functioning pretty well. But his doctor did not even want to entertain there was anything else to do except, oh, well, in a few weeks you're going to be on dialysis.
Just a state of acceptance and hopelessness, really.
Sure. And what do you put on this patient? Hahnemann said words can kill, and he was absolutely right. How many people do we know go to the doctor and say, they give you, oh, well, you have 3 months to live. And 3 months later, this person duly, because they were told to, dies. And yet we all know of people out there who've had metastasized cancer throughout their entire body and have been living for 20 years with that condition. Or people who have been told they're in failure with this or that organ and somehow have survived. I think it was Bernie Siegel who said, I challenge any of you to look at blood test results or medical tests and tell me when that patient's going to die. I think he even offered, he bet his salary against the salary, a week's pay of his salary against the salary of any of the doctors he was talking to. So, and he says no one's ever taken him up on it. we are thinking, living, breathing, emotional beings, and our state of health has a lot to do with what's going on in our mind. So modern medicine is much too evidence-based, and I'm not knocking it. I know some wonderful allopathic practitioners who do a great job. I just think their protocols are terrible. This one doctor said to me, he says, I probably have prostate cancer. I'm at a certain age, and most people are going to have problems. He says, but I'll never get on their list. I'll never receive treatment. And I said, why? He says, one, it's probably never going to kill me. And number two, once you're diagnosed, you're on their treadmill, and you're going to be treated exactly as the way protocols tell you you must be treated, not the way your individual physician feels perhaps you should be treated.
Okay, so now you're knocking at the door of a homeopath. Mm-hmm. What is it going to be like walking in there, and how does a homeopath train differently?
Well, I think the first thing, when I opened my practice almost 20 years ago, I expected colds and flus. I expected injuries, minor things. And that's not what I got. I got idiopathic cytopenia purpurvia. I've had Morgellons. I had a woman walk in who was a dissociative personality behavior. She was a high-functioning executive who had 8 personalities manifesting inside her. And this was nobody knew. These were cases that resolved very, very nicely with homeopathic treatment. But it was hardly the first thing you would expect from a new homeopath. And for that reason, I've been very active with the standards and competencies in the United States. And I've been active with the accrediting organizations and been working with the certifying organization of the CHC. And because we have an onus and a pressure being a CAM practitioner to know what we're doing. It's important that we be properly trained, because everyone we take care of successfully, we've made a friend for CAM practice. And everyone we've messed up, and I'm not going to say I haven't messed up cases too, we drive them back into allopathic medicine. I'm very much of a believer, as I said earlier, we have got to properly educate the future homeopathic practitioners. I think for many of us, when we started with homeopathic medicine, and I was terrible, I heard about homeopathic medicine, I got myself a book, and I don't think there was anyone safe for me before I had studied, because, of course, quote, everyone knows there's no danger in this. You're giving a tiny little pill. And that's not realistic. But there was no information out in those days. There was no internet to get further information. I was kind of stuck studying or trying to get my hands on it and didn't even know where to look. Later on, I realized the error in my ways. But we, as someone without much training, can do good with homeopathic medicine. Imagine how successful properly trained homeopaths can be.
Excellent. Excellent. So that's why we usually recommend go to the local store and pick up an emergency kit for a home practitioner, somebody who's just taking care of the family. I talked about having a boo-boo on the chat here, and if you're not from America, you don't know what that is, and that is like if you have a child who falls, you say, let me kiss your boo-boo and make it better. And
sure.
Homeopathy is similar to that, because it is the energy, the love, the spirit, and the essence of what has gone wrong to help the body heal itself.
Sure.
Dr. Sharma, can you tell us a little bit about clinical practice for you in India? And I know that you have visitors come to your clinic now.
Yes. Maria, you are said very true that there is a very different practice in India. And India is a country where the patient, about 40% of the persons are using homeopathy in the northeast states. So what we are considering about the clinical practice, it is not a new concept. It was started by the Clark, as you know, because Clark described every medicine in a clinical way.
Yes.
If you're reading a medicine from the Clark, then you just find the first heading is a clinical, like that. When you are reading the Lycopodium, you find it the abdomen distended, abortion, albuminuria, aneurysm, angina pectoris. You can use in aphasia, you can use in asthma. So there is a basic way to use in the clinical way. It's a very good idea to use the homeopathy and spread the homeopathy in a shortest time. When we are using the clinical method in India, in day-to-day practice, many of the patients are coming with a acute pain, like pain of migraines or pain of the renal stones. And when we are working on that, we just take a short case and just match the similar medicine in the shortest time, because the Hahnemann always said, you just take a shortest time to
Sure.
cure the patient. So we consider in a short time, and just give a acute medicine for the acute pain, and it
Right.
works. It works in a second. Sometime my patient had a experience. The pain was gone within a seconds after
Mm-hmm.
giving a dose.
That's
Can I say something? When I have my talks with Dr. Christina Chambreau, who is a doctor of veterinary medicine, whenever she says that kind of an experience happens, that the animal, the pet, got better so quickly, she worries. She says, "Oh no, what did I do wrong?"
But I think you're looking at two different areas and two different cultures.
Okay.
And by that I mean, in the United States, if we get a pain, we walk to the cabinet and take an aspirin or a Motrin or
Tylenol.
horrifically a Tylenol, sure, and we get on with our life. By the time in the United States they come to see us, we are dealing with deep-seated chronic diseases. And yes, for some of my patients, if I enacted a cure that way, I would say the same thing. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong? And I've told them here, and I've told that to patients. I said, look, you've had this a long time. I said, if I give you something and this symptom's gone, I'm going to worry that I didn't go deep enough. But Dr. Chopra is looking.
Sharma.
I'm sorry, Sharma. Excuse me. Dr. Sharma is looking at a people who know the difference, know when they need to see the doctor, are having these acutes treated right away. We don't do that in this country. And this is what I
Yes,
mean.
and
When we're
Maria,
talking, go ahead, doctor.
Maria, I have an explanation for the question the Chamberlain I say, when you are selecting a medicine in the homeopathically. So when a patient is coming for a acute pain, we just analyze the case and choose a acute remedy only. We are not giving the constitutional medicine at that time. We are just giving the acute medicine for the to
Mm-hmm.
relieving the pain. Like that, if a patient is coming with a calcarea carb constitution, so I am not prescribing calcarea carb first. I prescribe belladonna first, then go to the calcarea carb when the pain is subside. That is the way of classical medicine.
Yes. The problem in the United States is they won't come back, though. When they're looking at acute pains, they want it taken care of right away. They'll go to their allopathic doctor and they'll get a pill. By the time they come to me, they're at that state of, I can't stand it anymore. I don't want to take this medicine for the rest of my life. Give me something forever. And what Dr. Sharma is talking about is classical Hahnemannian homeopathy, where Hahnemann is saying, basically sensation, location, modalities, what is going on here. And yes, we do treat that way. Also, if I've got a chronic patient, yes, there's times if it's simple enough to give a remedy and then give them the constitution to support that. But I rarely see that kind of thing. I almost never. In 20 years of practice, they come into me with a shopping list of problems.
And a bag of pills.
Oh, and a bag of vitamins also. And more than once, they've got their shopping bag or their kit, and okay, should I take this or shouldn't I take this? And this doctor told me to take this, and it makes it very difficult and complicated for us. They don't see us for minor things.
Right. So
Actually,
the person's symptoms might be caused coming from the drugs or coming from overabundance of vitamins or coming from all sorts of
sure.
background rather than specifically the illness or whatever's going on. Can you tell us a little bit explain for the new listeners about sensation, location, concomitants, on what was the other one? Modality.
Yeah, I think Dr. Sharma is probably better suited to that. But in the United States, we keep talking about classical homeopathic medicine. And it's almost rare that a lot of homeopaths use it because they've said, okay, we have Hahnemann and Bonninghausen, and then we're going, as he said, Dr. Kent and Boger, and we are going up. But they're looking for, to be honest, a quick route to a sensation, or they're looking for a quick route to a one remedy fixes everything. And it's pretty hard when you have a very, very, very suppressed case to find one remedy, unless you're a real genius, that's going to fix everything for them. And yet that's the expectation. Well, this is classical homeopathic medicine. And as Dr. Sharma said, there are acute exasperations of chronic diseases, and then there's the chronic disease. And they see us for the chronic disease. I'm in kidney failure. What can you do for me? Well, what happened to you for the 5 years leading up to this kidney failure? Oh, well, my doctor took care of it, but now he can't take care of it anymore. I've had people sitting there and, well, what medicines are you on? Your heart's okay? Oh, yes, this is fine. I checked their meds list. They're on Synthroid, they're on blood pressure medicine, they're on anti-cholesterol medicine, they're on 2 or 3 other things for their acid indigestion.
They're fine because they have all that that's taking care of them.
Until it stops working.
Well, you have to keep going in and getting the lab work done and the adjustments done and making sure that the body hasn't found a way around these drugs to show a new symptom or.
So we see them once the antacids have disturbed the digestion so badly that they're not digesting their food properly, that their body's unable to continue repair. And so we watch this decline, and then they're sitting in my office.
And then you look at them and you throw up your hands. Now, what do you do?
I wish, when I tell you I'm a brand new practitioner, I just opened my practice and a patient comes in and she walks in the door and I greet her and she sits in a chair and she throws her arms over her head and goes, ah! So I'm pop-eyed here saying, what? She goes, I'm a multiple personality. There's 8 people inside me and they're all screaming at the same time.
Oh, gosh, now, what do you do? Who do you talk to first?
Well, the dominant personality, and so I enlisted the help of a psychiatrist who was in continuing ed, also a homeopath in my next. And I said, "What do I do?" He said, "You can bring those personalities up, ask them." And I did on one of the personalities. Scared me to death because everything changed. By the way, just to let you know, it is definitely a cured case. She is one. She is. Took about 5 or 6 years. Each of the personalities needed their own remedy, and so
fascinating.
Each personality was brought on by a trauma. Each one eventually had to have their own remedy. There was no consistency in potencies. The last time I heard from her, her constitutional was boron, and I just gave her another boron 1M bottle.
Fear of falling?
Nope. Not in this case. It was pieces. And she's been on the board. But don't get me wrong, there were remedies for each, and there were acutes in there, and there was a lot. But she's doing great. She's absolutely. The case is about 20 years old, and she's absolutely doing fantastic.
So this is a point that homeopaths and potential clients need to know, that it does develop over time. Cure happens over this
Over time.
over time,
Yeah.
and don't expect it to happen overnight or in a week or in a month. But
And I was so young as a homeopath to start, I gave her a constitutional, which was not born, it was one of the Callies, that towards the end, that's exactly the remedy she needed. So whether I could have just given her that remedy, I doubt it. There was just so much in there. But most of the cases I've seen that are like, oh my gosh, I just want to say, and you don't in front of the client.
how did you get here? How are you still walking?
That's what I said. I had a young girl come in, and when she came up, my office is on the second floor. So I watched her walk in from the parking lot, and she looked like she had smallpox. I mean, she had blotches, black blotches everywhere in her face and hands. Turned out to be a Morgellon case in a nurse, a registered nurse who had advanced training, practitioner status. She goes, I've got Morgellons. I looked it up. I can't get anybody to listen to me. And Morgellons is an interesting eruption where there's silica fibers that are in these lesions, and the silica fibers are stabbing them. And you kind of have to pull them out. Her skin now is gorgeous, but I had to listen through every allopathic doctor and diagnosis before I could even get to the homeopathics. Sometimes the patients just need to vent when you have these.
So let me ask you this: as a practitioner, are you in touch with their allopathic physicians who have been caring for them so many years prior to you seeing them?
No.
No, that's
Mostly
interesting.
no. They don't want to talk to me. I had an allopathic doctor send me a patient. He said she was early stage Hashimoto's. Her thyroid stimulating hormone was about 3,000, and everything else was normal. He had no idea what to do with her, so he referred her to me. It took about 6 months. I think it was a Calcarea iodatum case. After 6 months, everything was normal, and her blood pressure went up. Well, for us, that's direction of cure. Okay, the message to her was, stop the homeopathics now. I'll take care of you. And so, of course, he put her on blood pressure medicine, and that was the end of my patient.
It's really, really sad to see that happen. And is there something that a homeopath can say to a client in terms of expectations of return of symptoms so that they realize that you're going to work through those as well?
We can send them. I've sent them to different areas. I've talked to them about it. It's tough because, let's face it, how many times do we really listen to our doctors? If the doctors were going to tell us anything, it's the patient did not do what I told him to do. Someone comes in, I give them a bottle of remedy. Here's the directions. I'm an Aqueous dose prescriber. I give them a bottle, like write the directions down. This is how you take it. Most of the time, they don't listen to me. I stopped turning my clients loose with a tube of pills because the bottle of pills says take 3 pills 3 times a day.
Right.
And I tell them to take 1 pill and wait.
Right.
The next thing you know, they're in.
But a lot of people will say go to the health food store or our online catalog and order your remedy so that you have it on hand, or, the people who have a kit at home. And therefore, what do you do to educate people on correct dosing and repetition?
Well, you can talk to them. Most of my clients do not have a kit. A lot of them have learned and are doing well. I did put together an acute prescribing course for the British Institute. It has about 130 remedies. My friend Lynn Cremona and Ann McKay helped with this course. And it is a fantastic course, but it clearly delineates direction of cure. It clearly delineates how to take remedies, how to know the difference between an acute and chronic situation, what they can handle, what they can't handle. It covers most of the things we moms have with grandchildren or children. And so it's a first step. It's a course that is, if you do it and you like it, you can move on to going into the more chronic, our professional program, or you can just stay there and have a good time and when I say a good time, you can handle most of what we see day to day, including nursing and pregnancy and childbirth remedies and, falls and injury remedies. So I think the answer is we have to be responsible enough, whether we're a consumer or a patient, to find out the information. And
tell us about the British Institute and the program that you have set up so that the students do have a clinical practice.
Okay, I think the hardest thing in the United States, like Dr. Sharma doesn't have that in India because there's a lot of places to go. But in the United States, we homeopaths are few or far between. I'm in southern New Jersey. When I studied, I was recuperating from Lyme disease. That was the couple of years, almost 3 years it took me to get my health back and my energy back. And I might as well have been on a desert, in the middle of a desert or on an island in the ocean somewhere. There was no supports around. There was no one who knew anything about homeopathy when I started. So I saw the course, an ad for the British Institute course. I took it. I was voracious with my studies. I couldn't get my hands on enough books. I couldn't get my hands on enough information. I was a fanatic. So clinical training, as I said, was just almost not available. You could go sit in a big classroom with hundreds of people with you and watch somebody taking cases. So we had to set it up for the British Institute. We do it online because our students are all over the world, literally. And we take a Saturday and Sunday and have 2 days of clinic. If you're Eastern Standard Time, you plug in at 8 o'clock and you're done at 4. Depends if you're in California. You're plugging in earlier, and if you're in England or Europe, you're plugging in much earlier, and we do video stream the cases. But I think it's essential for people in the United States to understand what they're going to get for cases. I would love it.
That's true. I think that the universe pushes you to your limit. You're not... For some reason, they're much harder or much more complicated than you could ever imagine. It's not what you typically learn. A person isn't going to walk in and just rattle off a list of, these are the keynotes. And okay, this is exactly what we need. We've got belladonna and aconite, and, we don't have the simple case. We have really very complicated issues. With emotional problems, mental problems, physical problems, all mixed up in a big ball.
All mixed together.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's one of the things with the clinics. These are real people. And every time, and I hate to say it because, okay, I've got a case. It should be an easy case for you. And that turns out to be a nightmare. I had a case of post-traumatic stress, one of our first clinical cases. It went fabulously. We started him on aconite 6C 3 times a day, aqueous dilution, and he stayed on that for a long time. Turns out, we found out later, and the homeopathy did a tremendous amount of good for him, turned out to be a head injury case later, where there was actually, he was exhibiting some psychiatric schizophrenic symptoms, and when, he called and go to the ER immediately, there was a few things going on, and when he did, there was actually scar tissue preventing the brain transfer, and they warned him for the rest of your life you could have these psychotic episodes. But he stopped drinking, he stopped using marijuana, and so reduced the number of episodes. But the alcohol and the marijuana he was using for the post-traumatic stress of situations.
A lot of people are self-medicating. And so are you saying... Most people in some way. So, I will do it with chocolate. So so this case was doing a lot better with aconite. And I wanted to mention in the chat earlier, we were talking about bad news. The doctor walks in and gives you bad news. And so now you're set into a brand new state, and potentially aconite would be good for that. Hearing bad news, and I was thinking about gelsemium, and Dr. Rakwar talked about Ignatia or Nature Mure. So we actually move people. People are susceptible to the words. Words can hurt, words can heal. Who is the author of that book? I'll get it to you in the future, but it's a beautiful book, and it's true. The truth is that we have to be careful with what we say.
Yes. And as practitioners, especially for us, our job is to empower that patient sitting in front of us. I've seen young homeopaths, and they find a mental emotional for the patient, and they start picking at it like you pick at a scab. And I had a really good practitioner. The minute that patient's face changed, he would back off. And he had been trained in another country. This practitioner had trained in South America, and he was a master at going in it another way. It is not our job to reduce a patient to sniveling and crying. If they need to cry, they're going to cry. One patient I had came in, I was starting, and a lot of times I start on family histories just to get them talking. And I said, your mom, she's passed. She starts crying. Now, this is the first 5 minutes, and I'm sorry. How long ago did she pass? 20 years. She cries every day. Well, there was the center of her pathology right there. That was another great case. I gave her Aura muriaticum naturinatum on that case, and it just sailed her right into where she needed to go.
So what do you respond to all of the people who say that the healings that go on in the homeopathic office are due to the talk therapy, the placebo effect? What do you say to that?
Years ago, I said that to a homeopath. I said, well, we have the placebo effect. And his comment was, oh, come on, Maria, you don't believe that. Mm-hmm. And when I thought about it, that's true. I don't believe that, because if it was going to work, it would have worked with me plenty of times by now. And the same with the patient. What is it that we give a client a remedy and it does nothing?
Exactly.
And you say, well, that remedy should have done it. You have this and this and this and this and this. And then you turn around. I had a patient for a long time, still have. They've been clients of mine now for almost 20 years. And I had given them Natrum muriaticum. And there was road rage. There was impatience. There was, a ton of symptoms. And Natmur, oh, my God, did great things for him. Absolutely great things for him. Except I could never get him over the pinnacle of the mountain. It's like you're climbing a mountain, and I just could not get him over that last 30 feet to get over the pinnacle and down the other side. And I was sitting in a lecture regarding aquamarina.
Uh-huh.
Now, this man was on LMs. He had been on to maybe LM20s. The remedy was still doing him a lot of good. I'm sitting in a lecture. I hear about aquamarina, and I'm like, wow, he's an aquamarina. Once I changed the remedy to aquamarina, he's had 3 bottles in the last maybe 7 years. And he's doing fantastic, turned his whole life around.
People might want to know, what is aquamarina?
It's seawater, the mother of all.
As opposed to nature, was he on Natrum muriaticum before?
Yes, he was. Natmur is a great remedy. They hold things in. They stifle their emotions. Natmur has to be in charge. Aquamarina wants someone else in charge. And that was the key when I said to him, who's in charge, you or your wife? Oh, my wife. I like it that way. Aquamarina. Looks exactly like Nat. Yes, it looks exactly like Natmur. But that's a difference. I had a patient I had on Russ Tox for a long time. And I just couldn't get him over the edge in Russ Tox. Turned out to be a Russ Radikins case. Once he got Russ Radikins, everything evaporated. So our remedies can do a lot of good in palliation, and that almost kills the placebo effect. If it was placebo in any of these cases, the first remedy would have done it.
Well, if it was talk therapy and placebo, don't you think that all of the millions of counselors and psychotherapists and psychiatrists, that the patient would walk in and after a week or two, they would be all better?
All
right?
gone. Yep.
So, I mean, you can, think about it that way, or even if they go to the regular doctor and the doctor gave them a little bit of extra time, and that's what they're saying. They're saying, oh, it's because doctors are not able to give patients a half an hour, an hour of their time, and just a little compassion and a listening ear. All that is going to do. But does it for serious conditions of what we've been discussing, of heart disease and obesity and kidney failure and migraines and all of these other things.
But Debbie, and I think Dr. Sharma will jump in here because I think India is so far ahead of us. I know it was one of the Banerjees. He said they have patients who could not afford medicine for their high blood pressure. And he talks about some people he's been monitoring for 20 years had blood pressure of 210 over 110. Now, you know, that's a no-no in the United States.
Say that again, 200 what?
210 over 110. This is the Banerjee Protocol book. And they've been living for 20 years with that blood pressure, and they're fine. They're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. But you're not allowed blood pressure like that in the United States.
You're not allowed? Who's not allowing? Who's not allowed?
Well, doctors, 120 over 68 is what they want. So they put you on medicine. So what's your choices? You can have a beta blocker, which causes hypertrophy of the heart, meaning the heart enlarges, or you can have a diuretic, which 65% of people on diuretics go into kidney failure. So now where are you? You're sandwiched between hypertrophy of the heart and congestive heart failure, or kidney failure,
right,
or a blood pressure that's a little higher that is considered normal in our culture.
Right. So we have this concept that everyone is the same, that we're just on this medium, you know, everybody has to get the same medications, the same vaccinations. Everybody's going to eat Kellogg's Special K. You know, and it's not true, because each of us, as I say each week, we are unique and we have our own needs and we have to fulfill our mission. We are not supposed to be little marching ants.
We're not cookie cutters.
We're not cookie cutters, no. And so we have to be viewed, and we want to be viewed as a unique individual as well. And so that's what homeopathy provides for us, that individual care.
And there's a doctor, I think it's Robin Williams,
Robin
biochemical
Williams.
individuality.
Oh.
Do you know that one?
No, Robin Williams?
I
only know the comedian.
No. He's a doctor. The book is Biochemical Individuality. And he talks about our hearts are not in the same place. 20% of our hearts are here. 20% are here. 20% are here. So that's normal. There's 60%. And then the other 40%, the heart can be anywhere. And we know of people who have hearts on the right side of their body, or we know of them if we don't know anyone. And that goes for everything. We are all different.
Roger Williams,
Biochemical
Individuality, Basis for the Genototrophic Concept by Roger Williams, 1998.
Thank you. Yeah. The book is let's put it this way, the book is fantastic, but it isn't, I would say, bedtime reading.
It sounds pretty heavy to me.
It is heavy and it's ponderous, but it's a beautiful, beautiful document that really will bring to light the fact that we are all different into our very cells. And isn't healing bringing out, as Hahnemann said, our deepest level of, wait a minute, no, I'm not quoting that right, our higher meaning of existence.
And that's really why we're on the planet. If we were in tune with our soul energy, we would know exactly what we were supposed to be doing, and that's the true alignment, getting our bodies to cooperate with our soul. And that's not an easy task, because that's the struggle that we were here on the planet to do. On the chat, we have lots of little notes. Dr. Kubushan, who's going to be on in April, I believe, is saying that the aquamarina is also good for low blood pressure. And there's another note here. Rauwolfia serpentina as a mother tincture. Is that also for blood pressure? I don't know whether.
This is for blood pressure.
Yes, Dr. Sharma?
Yes, this is for high blood pressure. Rauwolfia serpentina is very common medicine using in India for the high blood pressure.
Can I tell you a quick story about that? I know we're almost out of time.
Keep going. Oh, I lost your sound. Hold on. Wait, are you there? No. Did you accidentally click sound off? No, we lost you. Pull out your headset and maybe we'll hear it directly from your computer. You have any sound? No.
She has to unplug it.
Unplug the headset? Did you unplug the headset? Okay. You're going to have to come back in. Turn it off and back on again, I guess. Oh, you know what? I think I just heard you. I just heard you. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you can hear me.
Good, good.
When Ralufus serpentina was first discovered, it was a tranquilizer. And they brought it to a mental hospital, and they wanted to try it out. So they told all the inmates that they were going to be trying out this new experimental tranquilizer, and they were going to try it for them. So they gave it to the inmates, and the inmates, being very suspicious, put it in the coffee of their caretakers.
Woo!
Apparently, it also had the same result, because once you calm down the caretakers, you calm down the hospital. And that was the one medicine that was responsible for emptying the mental hospitals. This is something Dr. Schultes at Harvard used to teach. So I had to
Awesome.
throw that in. Dr. Sharma, thank you for that.
We need
Yes,
to turn medicine on its head. We need to give all of these drugs to the people who are divvying them out and see what happens to them. And then maybe they will question it or something else. But how much time do we have, Amnon? Okay, we have a little bit more time. Can I switch topics to the peanut allergy debacle here? On the New York Times, February 3rd, 2014, which is today, As Peanut Allergies Rise, Trying to Determine a Cause, by Jane Brody. She is the health expert on the New York Times. And I have a huge article posted on Homeopathy World Community all about this issue of allergies in society today and the increasing number of people who are allergic to things like simple plant food, a legume, a peanut. And the reason partially is because of the GMO, partially because it's in our vaccines, and now we're becoming hypersensitized to these oils and these aromatics. And it's terrible because you might have somebody come in, a child or somebody come in to your office with a allergic reaction. It says, many airlines no longer offer peanuts for fear that an allergic passenger might inhale peanut dust and suffer a life-threatening reaction at 30,000 feet. And I can tell you, and I told this story before, a woman sitting next to me, I had a thing of peanuts, and she was going into shock because they were handed out. And she wasn't eating it, she wasn't touching it, it was just in the air. And in my grandchildren's schools, they're not allowed to bring any peanut butter jelly sandwiches. They're not allowed to give peanuts. I mean, this is changing society as it was. And they are now doing experiments, besides the anaphylactic shock, itching, swelling tongue, constriction of airways, and rapid heartbeat, fainting, nausea, and vomiting that can result from a simple peanut. They are doing a treatment with oral immunotherapy. And listen to this, it's very similar to homeopathy, immunosensitivity, which is basically giving small amounts of peanuts they did it up to 91% of the children aged 7 to 16 could safely ingest 5 peanuts a day, far more than they could before the treatment. About 1/5 of the treated children reacted to the ingested peanuts, but most reactions were mild. And so I feel like they're inching closer and closer to using what we say is the simillimum, instead of giving allergy injections, actually giving the substance orally and letting the body go the regular normal route of assimilation, absorption, and reaction response with the immune system. Do you have any comments? I went on and on. Dr. Sharma, did you have something about peanuts?
Nothing more, because I do not have any experience about the peanuts.
Maria.
Debbie, yeah, my only
what
comment was a few years back, we were injecting our children with 22 of the nastiest diseases known to mankind in their first year of life. Now I'm told the vaccination levels are almost 45 different substances. Yes, I believe we're oversensitizing them. I believe we are not adjusting them to survival in this world anymore. I think we're causing them to be weakened, and I think it's causing some real problems. And of course, when we start talking that way, we are starting to affect the pediatrician's income because, of course, the kids have to go back to the pediatrician. And we're also affecting the pediatrician's income in another way because without the vaccinations, the children are not that sick. But without the vaccinations, we have to be a little more vigilant, and you have to be sure you have a homeopath there just in case the kids do catch something. Or topic for another day or another speaker will be homeopathic prophylaxis, which I too have used and find a great deal of benefit with my grandchildren. They are healthy, they are doing well, and let's say I just frown against putting foreign proteins and substances and preservatives into the bodies of my grandchildren.
Right. And here we have in the American Homeopath magazine, an article by Kate Birch, who's been on our show numerous times, Homeoprophylaxis as a Cure for Fear of Disease. And she has an entire protocol. I took her course. I'm a supervisor for parents who do want to give their children a series of homeopathic nosodes. Can be very helpful.
She's going to be at the National Center of Homeopathy in California this April. So if anyone's out there or anyone wants to catch her, she's going to be talking on that topic.
Good. I wanted to make that announcement. If you go to homeopathic.org, you can click on the National Center for Homeopathy, and there is the 9th Annual Joint American Homeopathic Conference. It's in California. Let's see. It's called Advanced Practice Approaches for Acute and Chronic Care, April 4th through 6th of this year at the Hyatt Regency in Long Beach, California. So anybody who they still have an early bird special to sign up by something in some date in this month, February. I also want to. Yes, are you going?
Yeah, Maria, I have a question. Do you have any clinics in your institute?
We do them online. We do 100 hours a year on 6 weekends. So what we do is we have a new real patients, real follow-ups. They come in. We have one patient for each clinical day, one new patient, and up to 2 follow-ups each day. And then the students are expected to take the case, submit the case, and the CHC, the certification agency, tells how this has to be. We also want the students to show up. Most of them are distance, but show up and do case taking before they're finished so that we can monitor them through that process. So students will take cases, or sometimes I have guest homeopaths taking cases.
Thank you very much.
You have only one institute in whole US, or you have different branches in another states also?
Well, we had a lot of branches, but when I purchased the rest of it, we closed them for economic reasons, and we're all running through the United States. We're in the process of applying for accreditation through the Akina organization, but we teach homeopaths worldwide. We specialize in the homeopath who could not get to a class, and that was me when I first started studying. I was too ill to travel. There was no one around, so our specialty is for people who really want to be homeopaths, and whether they cannot travel because of children or cannot travel because of care of elderly, or many busy doctors who just can't get weekends off, people in emergency services. So we have the atypical student. We have fantastic students. Actually, quite a few of our graduates are teaching their own courses now.
So I congratulate you and all those people out there who are listening. Just think about the British Institute for Homeopathy and Maria Boll. Contact her. We need to give the website for you. What is that? We're lost for some reason. We've kind of lost sound again. Go to homeopathyworldcommunity.com or email me at homeopathyworldcommunity@gmail.com, and I will get the message to Maria. Also, I wanted to make a couple of announcements. Next week, we're going to have Ambika Waters, a famous author, talking about sexuality and homeopathy. It's going to be a very touchy subject, and she is blowing us out of the water with, she's just very familiar with this topic and has done research for many years. February 17th, Mike Menkes is talking about stress relief using manipulation and probably emotional freedom therapy and other kinds of massage and things like that. And then February 24th, Michelle Shine is also an incredible author, has published a book about a novel approach to homeopathy in impressionistic art. It's called Mesmerized. Other things that we want to know is Alan Phillips. He talks, of course you can't see because it's blue. Alan Phillips, every week we've changed our schedule. We used to be on Thursdays at 1. He is going to be on Wednesday at 6 p.m., Blog Talk Radio, Homeopathy World Community, or Freedomizer Radio, talking about the issue of vaccinations and your rights, because he is an attorney at law in the United States. And the last Wednesday of each month, I will take the hour and talk about issues of the day, homeopathy, whatever people want to hear about, learn about homeopathy. Other things that are going on, look on the front page of Homeopathy World Community today, and you will see that there is a program February 6th. I think it is like a healing prayer for the waters of Fukushima. The news is not talking about Fukushima, but the radiation, the radioactive emissions are continuing in tons and tons into the waters of our oceans. They're affecting the entire planet. They're not just affecting Japan. And realize that we are changing the entire planet's ecosystem, the plant life in the ocean, and the soil and the earth. Also, there's an article put up by Terry Clerk. A homeopathic complex inhibits melanoma growth in vivo. And this also substantiates the work of homeopathy to heal in evidence-based medicine. And I know I've gone a little bit long today. I want to thank Maria so much. We would love to have you back. And thanks all to our listeners who have been very enthusiastic on the chat. Dr. Sharma, who was able to call in today. Yay, we got you in. And everybody, have a blessed day. Have a marvelous, happy, smiling day. And we'll see you next Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Maria.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert, and if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by ThatVidBlasterGuy.com, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.